Hey guys, so I watched JustAlyx's recent AEW video he did, where he basically talked about the fact that AEW right now is dull. It is not, hitting its stride. And so far, from what I've seen, it's gotten a lot of positive reviews. A lot of people actually enjoy hearing what he had to say because, he's not sugarcoating anything he says there because he's pretty much on par, with what he's saying. He's pretty much on point, I should say. Because you would think AEW would, you know, uh, be always strive to be the alternative, always strive to be the alternative to WWE or anybody else. And despite the fact that despite excuse me there, hold on for a sec, almost got tongue tied there. But like I said, despite having some good in-ring action and doing matches and and stuff that WWE would not do or used to do, but not to the extreme AEW allows it sometimes. Despite having all of that in their favor, you know, things are not looking good for them. They're not. And I'm surprised Alex didn't bring this up because there are reports going around from Cultaholic and TGR Wrestling and others that the WBD and AEW have not come to an agreement as of yet on a new TV deal. Yeah. And I know reports have come out that, oh, everything's hunky dory with them. But according to some reports out there, it's not looking good. It's not promising. You know, and you have to wonder if maybe one of the biggest things that happened in AEW affected that potential TV rights deal from becoming a reality. And that, of course, is the firing of CM Punk. I mean, we know that Bryan Danielson was on a disciplinary committee, where, they wanted to have an idea of what to do. And, he may have suggested, hey, the only thing I can think of, and even though he's my friend, is you got to remove him. You got to fire Phil Brooks, from the company. That's the only way you're going to get any semblance of order in the company. And, that might have been something he suggested, but he didn't expect would actually happen. And yet here you have Tony Khan coming out on national television and saying, "Hey, I had no choice but to do what I had to do because, because things were, out of control, and he was fearing for his life." But now you have to wonder if that basically affected any potential deal, promising TV deal they could have, and has now made WB more likely to get in bed with, the WWE. So, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder if that put a damper on the relationship because, the only reason they gave AEW an additional 2 hours on Saturday nights with Collision was because of CM Punk. They wanted, CM Punk to be the face of that show, also because of the fact that they would hopefully, create some resolution in separating, him away from the elite. Omega, the Bucks, Page, with the only exception of the fact that they would be under the same roof during pay-per-views, and that's it. But, that didn't help either because, some of their friends, some of the elite friends were showing up on Collision and they had words with CM Punk, most notably at All In, Jack Perry basically in front of the world on the 0 hour portion of All In, which was free to everybody. He pretty much, in his match with Hook, pats on the windowsill of a car and say, "Hey, look, real glass, cry me a river." And this led to an altercation between him and Punk. Basically, to me, that was like the last straw for Punk. Because, here you have somebody that you would think would, in heed to what not only Punk but others have said about the whole glass situation, and take it to heart and be responsible about, okay, everybody including Punk has told me not to do this. Fine, whatever, I won't do it. You think he would take that to heart, but he doesn't. He doesn't, and yet he has not been on television since then. And rumors are circulating he could be, the guy behind the devil mask, but we won't know till like World's End. But the thing is, you have to wonder, if removing Punk from the equation, like I said, kind of soured on that relationship, because that to me may have been what really, caused David Zaslav and Kathleen Finch and some of the other TV rights members on the TV rights board members to say, you know what, AEW is not worth it right now. They're not worth having on our networks anymore. So let's move on from them. You have to wonder if that's making them feel that way. Now, I'm not saying a deal can't be made, but it's going to be really hard for AEW to sell up to 44,000 tickets, because the configuration for Wembley Stadium next year is not for 80,000, it's for 44,000. So you're going to have like half of that stadium empty for, in comparison to what it was this past year. You're going to have half of that stadium empty in comparison to what it was this year in August, when it had 80,000 plus, if you will. So, so it's going to be hard to really sell those remaining tickets, if not more tickets, if they're not going to be on a major network. Now, there's plenty of time between now and when the contract with WB goes kaput, the current contract, to make a new one. But if I'm Tony Khan, I'm doing exactly what Alex said. I'm basically getting my butt in gear and getting all my priorities, all my ducks, in order, and making a lot of things my priority, making my product interesting again. Because what's happening here, when you read these reports, what's happening here is it feels almost identical to over 20 years ago, when Warner Brothers merged with AOL, when Time Warner merged with AOL, and those people wanted nothing to do with wrestling, period. In fact, even before then, those at Turner wanted to get rid of wrestling, but Ted Turner wouldn't let them do it. But then, I should say, when they merged with AOL, Ted lost his power, and they said, wrestling's not a priority, let's get rid of it. We're almost getting something identical. It almost sounds like we could be getting something identical here if Tony Khan doesn't get his act together. And there's a lot of things that, like I said, Alex pointed out justifiably that he needs to really get his act together about. Because it's great to have some stellar matches, on a weekly basis on your shows. That's fine. But honestly, you got to have more substance to that. You got to have a reasoning for certain matches happening, or why certain, segments are going to occur. You got to have a reasoning for a lot of that. You got to have a true purpose behind this Continental Classic, besides saying, hey, we're going to probably introduce our own version of the Intercontinental title. You got to have a purpose. You got to have a purpose, or else you're going to lose a lot of momentum. And you can't tell me that WBD and Zaslav and Kathleen Finch, you can't tell me they're not noticing the low attendance records here in the States. Because they are. They are noticing the low attendance records. And when they start noticing those low attendance records, you know what happens? That makes them, second guess or third guess, their relationship with All Elite Wrestling and Tony Khan. Because Tony Khan thinks, and Alex, he pointed this out justifiably, and he made a great point here. Tony Khan is basically becoming like Eric Bischoff was in the late 90s. When WCW Nitro was destroying WWF Raw in the ratings for 83 plus weeks, Eric Bischoff was acting like he was hot shit. He was acting like he was on top of the world. He even had a freaking segment. On Nitro. He was coming down from the roof, on a motorcycle with a crown on his head, and the first thing he says on the mic is, "It's so good to be king." That is what Tony Khan is becoming, and he needs to not do that. Tony Khan needs to not make himself into another Eric Bischoff, because we know what happened at the end of the day with that company. We know that. So he needs to get he needs to get all his priorities in order. He needs to put priority on stories that correlate with the in-ring competition. He does. He needs to have stories that correlate, with the in-ring competition for the women. He needs stories that correlate, with the in-ring competition for the trios matches and tag team matches. He needs to have stories that correlate with the men, as well. I mean, yeah, it's great they're giving, story elements to MJF and the whole devil situation and, everything going on with him, the questioning of Adam Cole's allegiance and what's Samoa Joe's role in all this and then Warlord, in his mission to get to MJF, you got all these kind of stories tying in, centered around MJF, and on top of that, even though it hasn't been talked about a lot because of speculation that he signed a new contract, you have the whole, bidding war for him, that story element or work shoot story element, to kind of work with as well. And yet, even though that's all good, you have all this storyline focused on your world champion, you need to also make time to put storyline focusing on a lot of the other talents. I mean, you have the Hardy Boys coming out voicing their frustration on Matt Hardy's YouTube channel. You have Britt Baker, work shoot or not, voicing her frustration on the fact that in 2023, the face, and let's be honest, that's what she is. That's what she is. Britt Baker is the face of the AEW Women's Division. She has had zero, mic tag promo time. I mean, earlier this year, you were building her and the AEW Originals up against, to go up against the Outcast, possibly, leading to a Blood and Guts women's match. And nothing came of it. You had everything right there. All the elements were right there for that to happen. Nothing came of it. Nothing came of it. And why? Why? Because you don't want to put emphasis on the women. I mean, what is it? What is AEW's problem? And we know that Vince McMahon didn't really give two shits about the women, even though he had to make it look like he did when the Women's Revolution happened over there. But even before and after that, he never gave two shits. Is that what Tony Khan's doing here? Is he showing that, he doesn't give two shits? Because that's what it feels like. I mean, the only woman you've given any storyline and character development to is Toni Storm with her timeless gimmick. And even now, you have, and I know it's part of a build-up to their match on Wednesday, for the Women's Championship, but now you have even Sky Blue, work shoot or not, or, promo to build to the story, build to the match or not, whatever the case is, you have Sky Blue coming out and saying, yeah, this timeless gimmick you're coming up with is BS. Oh, you've come up with is BS. It's stupid. It's BS. And yeah, and again, maybe that promo was part work shoot and part build to the match, on Wednesday, but still, it's like, excuse me. Still, it's like she's the only one that's getting any real significant time. I mean, what about Julia Hart? Okay, what, you're going to build a program or build a story between her and Abaddon? Is that what you're doing now? What, so she can recruit Abaddon as the House of Black? Because she knows Abaddon might be what? The only person that can match her darkness for darkness? I mean, is that going to be your direction for Julia Hart? What about Chris Statlander? Where's her rematch? Doesn't she get a rematch? Huh? She's the one that lost the title. Doesn't she get a rematch? I'm just saying. I'm just saying, what's going on here with the women? Why won't you give them more time? Why are you only picking out a selective few women to work with? I mean, reports are going around that you're planning. Rumors and reports are going around that, oh, you have numerous championships you've made outside of the ones we see on television. And people are speculating that one of those could be women's tag team titles. And you have a women's roster that you could actually utilize those with. and yet you're not doing it. You're not doing it. It's like, what are you afraid of? What? What are you afraid of? That some of the women are going to get pregnant? Is that what you're afraid of? Excuse me. Is that what you're afraid of? Let me get a Halls here. But is that what you're afraid of? Huh? Is that what you're truly afraid of? That, some of the women might get pregnant? Like, let's say, I don't know, Ty Mello? Is that what you're afraid of? Because if it is, just come out and say it. Just come out and say it. Because that's what it feels like. But here's the thing. You know what I really think it is? You know what I think it really is? As I'm sucking on a Halls drop right now, Halls cough drop. You know what I really think it is? Excuse me. You know what I really think it is? I think Tony Khan's scared. That's what it is. He's intimidated. Because he's no longer... I mean, Alex said it best. Excuse me. Alex said it best. Tony Khan has been on easy mode. Tony Khan has been on easy mode these past few years. Almost 5 years. Half a decade. He's been on easy mode. Because he's been going up against Vince McMahon and his crew. But now... But now he's going up against Triple H. And playtime basically is over. Game over is Triple H's old saying, right? Well, that's basically what's going on with Tony Khan right now. Game over when it comes to easy mode. Now it's time to step up and prove that you are a leader. Prove that your company is as good, if not better, overall than WWE. Because if you come out... Excuse me, while I go get some water. Sorry about that. Got something in my throat there. But anyway, what was it? Oh, yeah. It's like Alex said. He has been on easy mode. He's been playing on easy mode, for almost a half a decade. And now, playtime's over. Game over when it comes to easy mode. Just like Triple H's saying used to be, game over. Because, here's the thing. It's like I've said before. This is because here's the thing. Think of it, as I've said before, as a game of chess. Because that's what this is. When he was facing Vince McMahon, he was always 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of Vince McMahon. Or 3, 4, 5 moves ahead of Vince McMahon when it came to a game of chess. He was beating Vince McMahon. He was annihilating Vince McMahon. When it came to his game of chess. But now, he's going up against a true chess master. That's what he's going up against. He's going up against a guy that is, among the quote-unquote elite of chess masters in pro wrestling. And that's Triple H. And Triple H ain't going to be playing easy. He's not going to go easy on Tony Khan or anybody that goes up against WWE as competition. He is going to basically match them move for move and always find a way to be not just 5 steps ahead, but 10 steps ahead. And that's what's going on now. And I think that's why Tony Khan is now putting his all into this, into his company and into his talent. Because of the fact that he's scared, he's intimidated by Triple H and what's going on. When it was just him against Vince McMahon, to him it was like, Vince McMahon's a pushover. Push! And to him, he could just push Vince and Vince would go like, right into another spike every week. A spike down in the ratings and viewership. And that it would go in favor of him. Now it's the other way around. Now it's Triple H shoving Tony Khan down towards the spikes that are spiking down his ratings and his viewership and his attendance week by week. Because Triple H is a chess master. And here's the thing. You wonder why all of a sudden all these talents that were part of AEW decided to go to WWE or go back to WWE? Like Cody Rhodes last year and CM Punk recently And then as of this year, Brian Pillman Jr., now known as Lexus King, and Jade Cargill, you wonder why they left? Huh? Because they're noticing that Tony Khan is scared. He is intimidated by Triple H. And he can stand up, in front of the camera and say, hey guys, this is going to be a great show tonight. We got this great match, so tune in. It's going to be one of the best shows you see all week. Or he can go out and say, hey guys, we're on the verge of a 44,000 tickets being sold. We might expand to another 20,000 seats. So get your tickets now for All In 2024. It's going to be the greatest show you ever see. He can go out there and do that all he wants. He can go out on YouTube and reading off a freaking promo sheet or whatever, or a promo monitor or whatever it is. He can read off the fact that he's giving Billy Starks a match against Athena, at Final Battle, which, oh, by the way, hasn't even reached 1K in ticket sales. And it's going to be in Garland, Texas, in an arena that seats more than 1K. It's like, Tony, what are you doing? It's like, what's going on? What happened to the Tony Khan that was not afraid of competition, not afraid to put his best foot forward, even against the likes of Vince McMahon? What happened to the Tony Khan that put his best foot forward when AEW first started, and basically caused Triple H and the WWE and Vince McMahon to move NXT to Tuesday nights, forcing them off the Wednesday night time slot? What happened to that Tony Khan? Huh? What happened? I'll tell you what happened. Vince McMahon being removed as head of creative, not once but twice. And now Vince McMahon losing even more power, and Triple H now being put in charge of the creative, as well as an association of signing new talent, or being the main reason new talent gets signed, to a contract. Him now being in that power position that Vince had, he is the reason Tony Khan is acting this way, because Tony Khan is scared, and Tony Khan would rather just put up the white flag and say, you know what? We might as well just be happy being second best. Oh well, the best thing we can think about is we have the better wrestling than WWE. That's basically all that matters to me, and should matter to us. Let's just wave the white flag right now, guys, and say, hey, we're second best, and everything, and the only thing that makes us different from WWE is we have better in-ring competition. It's like he's giving up. He's giving up. And if, like I said earlier, if these reports of the fact that WBD and AEW may not come to an agreement for next year's TV rights, that would keep them on TBS and TNT, and then in turn WBD says, hey, we still want wrestling, but we'll take the more glamorous WWE over AEW. It's like Tony Khan might as well just get a contract, made up, a for sale contract made up, hand it over to Ari Emanuel and say, hey, here's another wrestling company you could have. Or hand it over to Paul Levesque and say, hey, you can be a co-owner along with Ari Emanuel of AEW. I give up, you win. That might as well be what he does, because it feels like it's leading that way. I hope it doesn't, because, a lot of people like Alex has said it best. Wrestling needs a company like AEW. We need a company like that around on a national level, that could go head to head with WWE and not be afraid, to back off. But right now, that's what it looks like it's doing. I mean, you can't tell me that Adam Copeland Edge isn't having second thoughts of, what the hell did I get myself into? You can't tell me he's not having second thoughts, because he is. He is having second thoughts. You can't tell me that Bryan Danielson, is regretting being there now. You can't tell me that. Knowing that he basically, not completely, but basically might have had a hand, not intentionally, but unintentionally, in getting his best friend removed, terminated. You can't tell me he's not realizing, maybe I should try to find a way out of this company and go back to WWE. You can't tell me he's not thinking about that. And you can't tell me Jon Moxley's not thinking about that. You can't tell me that Renee Parquette, his wife, isn't thinking about that. You can't tell me she's not taking him by the side and saying, you know what, John, maybe we should go back to WWE. They may not, be as violent, may not let you get as violent as you used to be, as you are now. But hey, it's maybe it's for the best financially, and who knows, maybe you might get an opportunity here and there. You can't tell me she's not talking to him. You can't tell me Charlotte's not on the phone with Andrade saying, hey, when's your contract up so you can come home? You can tell me Charlotte's on the phone with her dad thinking, Dad, how long is your contract with AEW for, and can we try to get you out of it? It's like, you can't tell me that's not happening. Because it is. You can't tell me that Miro and CJ Perry, I should say, are not frustrated. CJ Perry, Lana, she went there to be with her husband. And they got her in this story, which I appreciate. I appreciate you are putting her in a story here, and this might be what's needed to elevate Miro and her. But all this really is just a rehash, somewhat, of what we saw in WWE before Rusev left, the company, or was released by the company and came to AEW as Miro. It's just somewhat of a rehash of that. Almost. That's what it is. Except for it being an affair, it's clientele for CJ Perry. It's almost like Tony Khan wants. It's almost like Tony Khan is doing this on purpose, because he misses having Vince McMahon as the man. Vince McMahon is the one he goes up against. Maybe Tony Khan's doing this on purpose because of the fact that, hey, Vince McMahon, is not around anymore. I'll be the Vince McMahon. I'll be what I was fighting against or competing against, because I had a bit easier time against that. And now I'm not having an easier time. I might as well fill that void. Is that why he's doing this? Or again, is he doing it because pretty much he doesn't have that advantage anymore and he's just giving up? He's just giving up with the fact that, not only is Triple H whooping his ass, with what they're putting on WWE, re-signing all this talented, that's coming back to WWE like Cody and CM Punk, signing some AEW originals like Pillman Jr. and Jade Cargill, and who knows who else in the future? Is he giving up because of all that? Is he just giving up because of all that, along with the possibility that they may not have a TV deal next year? It's like, Tony, what were you expecting? I mean, he should have known that no matter how long AEW was going to be around, sooner or later he'd go up against Triple H. It wasn't just going to be Vince McMahon for the rest of his life. He should have known that. He should have known the moment WWE went up for sale and Endeavor bought it. He should have known, especially with the reports that whoever was going to get the company, and again, like I said, it was Endeavor, but whoever else it would have been, even the Saudis, that basically he would have had to deal with Triple H and creative. He would have. He should have known that the moment that Endeavor and NBC or NBC Universal and others came into play as bidders for the company, with most of them saying, it's outside of Endeavor, most of them saying, hey, we want WWE, but we don't want Vince McMahon. He should have, here's what Tony Khan should have done. The moment he heard that, he should have started planning on how to combat it. He should have got into a war room or whatever, with his team and been like, okay guys, we might be going up against Triple H creatively. Triple H might be the one running the ship, from here on in, depending on who buys the company. We need to be a step ahead. We need to make sure we have the program, the kind of program that's going to be able to compete with them on a week-to-week basis. That's what he should have done right off the bat, but he didn't do it. He did not do it. And now he's suffering for it. He should have been planning for the inevitable, the moment the moment he heard the company was going up for sale. Heck, he should have planned for it the moment Endeavor bought the company. Because he's a businessman himself. He should know that Triple H probably would have been put in the role of head of creative and booking and helping to sign new talent. He should have, the moment Endeavor bought the company, he should have been like, okay, boys, let's get to work, getting our program, getting our shit together, because because playtime's over, we're about to go to war. We're about to be in for the fight of our lives. But he didn't do that. And why? Because he didn't think it was going to be an issue. He thought to himself, oh, Vince McMahon's going to be running things from here on in. And in a sense, he was kind of right. He was kind of right about that. But guess what? That didn't last long, did it? No, it didn't. It didn't last long, because guess who came back? Triple H. And you know what Triple H? And you know what? Triple H is the kind of guy that does not forget and he does not forgive. Okay? He's that kind of a guy. And do you think he's going to forget and forgive Tony Khan for pushing off NXT off the Wednesday night time slot? Oh, hell no. That's why he's going head on, straight forward against Tony Khan. And basically giving him the ass whooping that he's been wanting to give him for a long time. And Tony Khan, if he wants to wants to get a television renewal with Warner Bros. Discovery on TBS and TNT for the next several years, if he wants to ensure he gets a streaming deal on Max, Tony Khan needs to get his shit together. Because there's a lot of talents in that company right now whose contracts are going to be up next year. And they're going to be like, bye-bye, Tony. Here's the bird. Straight to you. Bye-bye. We're going to WWE where things are better. Where things were like what they used to be here. We're going to go there. And they will. MJF, whether he signed a new contract or not, nobody's really sure. But if his contract is indeed up in 2024, and he's not the world champion by then, or he's still not he's not world champion by then, MJF is WWF bound, or WWE bound. Chris Stanlander, how long is her contract? Is it up in 2024? Chris Stanlander, WWE NXT bound. You know that. Athena, how long is Athena's contract up for? Huh? How long is it till her contract's up? Because if it's up next year, or within the next 2 years, you can't tell me she's not looking at WWE and going like, yeah, I'm going home and I'll get rechristened once more as Ember Moon. You can't tell me she won't do that, because she will. She will. Especially with the fact that she's stuck in a situation she shouldn't be stuck in. I mean, one thing Alex has pointed out is you got Athena, Ember Moon, one of the best female in-ring competitors, innovative female in-ring competitors, stuck on a brand that people can only watch, through payment on Honor Club? And the only way you can make up for the fact that nobody cares about paying for Honor Club is to basically have your talent show up, on your AEW programming, or have that talent, your ROH champions, show up on, on Collision, on Rampage, on Dynamite. I look at it this way. Tony Khan, you want Ring of Honor to be on national television? Guess what? Just take Rampage, turn it into Ring of Honor, just continue it under the Rampage name, the AEW Rampage name, but just make it all about Ring of Honor. You could do that, right? There's no clause or anything in the agreement with Warner Bros. Discovery that you can't do that, right? So why not just use Rampage and make that your pseudo Ring of Honor show just under the AEW logo? Just do that. Just do that as my alarm went off there, and I'm not going to work. I just forgot to turn it off. But, just do that. Just do that if you're so desperate to get them on television. It's better than nothing. And then, and speaking of Ring of Honor, you're planning to take the final battle pay-per-view, which is essentially the WrestleMania, the Starrcade, and not have it on pay-per-view? Are you fucking kidding? I mean, Less than 1,000 tickets sold or not. Not having it on pay-per-view and just having it on Honor Club is BS. That shows you how much that's watched the video. I'm replying to with this one, which is by JustAlyx, have agreed with what he said. You need to get your act together. You need to stop being afraid of Triple H and grow a set. Grow a set of balls, okay? Be a man. Stop being a fan. Grow up. Put your sergeant hat on or your colonel hat on or whatever and go to war with them. Prove to them that you are everything you say you are. And don't back down an inch. Don't. Do what you have to do. Find somebody in that roster, that unlimited roster you have on both Ring of Honor and All Elite Wrestling. Find someone that's going to be your next CM Punk. Find someone that's going to be your next Cody Rhodes. Find someone that's going to be your next Jade Cargill. Do it. Also, stop putting more emphasis on your tag team and trios divisions. Why even have those belts? Why even have all these factions and tag teams if you're not going to focus on them? Start doing it. Get your act together. And most importantly, start promoting your crap. Start promoting not just All In, because that's great if you want to do that, but start promoting everything else, from your AEW shows and pay-per-views to Ring of Honor. Start doing that. And do it months and weeks in advance and put emphasis on it. Buy time slots on USA and Fox to correlate with the airing of Raw and SmackDown. That'll get people's attention. Do that. Do that. It's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. Do that and show Triple H, hey, I'm not afraid of your ass. You wanna mess with me? Come on, let's fight. Let's go to war. Tony, everybody that's listening to this knows AEW has the potential to be the premier wrestling promotion overall. They know it. They know it has the potential to be the premier number one wrestling sports entertainment promotion in the world. They know they have that potential. They know they have the potential to surpass WWE in that way. WCW did it, and there's no saying it can't be done again. You were close to doing it. When Vince was running things creatively, you were close to doing it. People would rather sell out AEW shows, attend AEW pay-per-views, sell out weekly Dynamites and Rampages, and then later on Collisions over what Vince was presenting. And for a time, people were looking at you as the number one promotion. But now they don't see that. What they see is just another repeat of WCW. Heck, a lot of people pretty much look at you as just the new version, a new generational version of WCW. You might as well just rename your company WCW 2.0. The way it's being run right now. And you shouldn't be doing that. Heck, you know what really shows me that they're desperate for attention? The barricades now. They used to be just regular barricades with covering on them and everything. Now the barricades are seemingly becoming similar to what WWE's are. Sorry about that. That was my alarm again going off. But anyway, they're becoming those barricades, they're becoming very similar to WWE's now. That stage that they have, yeah, it's impressive. But they're repeating what WWE does, or used to do, and that's just keep the same freaking stage. They're not changing it. They're not changing it for pay-per-views. They're not changing it For anything. They're not making anything different between Dynamite and Collision. That shows you how desperate they're becoming. And how much they don't care. You don't get video packages anymore. Well, you do get video packages. I'll take that back. But only on occasions. Every time they used to have a pay-per-view, every match had a video package telling you why the match was happening. We don't get that no more. We don't. Again, it's like Tony Khan's given up. It's like he's putting up the white flag saying, I give up, Triple H. I give up, Paul Levesque. You win. You're the better booker. You're the better booker. You're the better creative mind. I give up. I'll just be fine with being second best or third best. You win. That's what it feels like he's doing. In addition with the fact that, the TV deal might be not renewed in the next year, it's like he's giving up on his company altogether. Like he's looking at the fact that, hey, if we make it to 5 years, that's good enough. I've proven my point. I've proven my point that an ordinary fan like myself, can run a wrestling company at times better than those that have been in the business. It's like he just wants to get to that 5-year point, close the company down, and then come out and say, hey, I was just a fan that ran a wrestling company on my own, and guess what? I proved I could do it better than those that have been in the business for longer than I have. It's like he just wants to get to that point to prove a point. Get to that moment to prove a point. And if that's the case, then Tony, why don't you just come out and say it now? Why don't you just come out and say it now, Tony, that, hey, why don't you just come out, say it now, try to save face, maybe that'll save your company and keep it on, the Warner Bros. Discovery Networks. Why don't you just come out and say, hey guys, I'm Tony Khan, and I want to admit something to you guys that you may already know, but hey, I'm just a fan just like you and I, or just like all of you watching at home and in attendance here in the arena, and I wanted to say that the only reason AEW is existing right now, and Ring of Honor is existing right now, is because I wanted to prove to those guys up in Stamford, Connecticut, that we fans can run a wrestling company better than they can, even though we don't have that much experience like they do. Why don't you just come out and say that now, Tony? Why don't you just come out and say that now? Get it over with. And again, maybe that might save your ass and keep you on the WBD networks. Because that's honesty. That's just honesty right there. But you won't do it. You're going to wait until you get that 5-year limit. And if there's no TV deal, you're going to say, okay, AEW, out of business. We're done. We're done. History. I'm putting you up for sale. Oh, here's a buyer. Here you go, Triple H. You can be a co-owner along with Ari Emanuel and AEW. But have fun. It's like he's giving up. It's like he's giving up. It's like All In's going to be the final day of business. The final day of existence. And that's why they're putting so much promotion into it. And I can tell you this. I bet you a lot of the talent in AEW and by extension Ring of Honor, I guarantee you a lot of them probably feel the same way. They probably feel like Tony Khan's just waiting until the TV rights deals are not renewed, and he's just going to give up on the company and both companies, put them up for sale, and have maybe Triple H or Ari Emanuel, if not both, as co-owners buy the company, absorb it into Endeavor, absorb it into TKO, and then, basically buy up all those contracts and turn them into WWE or NXT contracts, to fill up their roster. That's probably, a lot of those towns probably feel that's what's going to happen. They probably feel that's what's going to happen. Because Tony Khan doesn't give a damn. He doesn't. He's given up. He has given up. He doesn't care about this anymore. If he did, he'd be putting emphasis on it. He would. He'd be promoting his shows. He'd be putting emphasis on his talent. He'd be putting emphasis on stories. He'd be doing everything that made AEW what AEW was at the start. And he wouldn't be worried or scared about going up against someone like Triple H just because they're not Vince McMahon. As somebody that has played video games the whole life, the only way you ever beat a game is you play it all the way through. And you know that certain games, as you progress, get harder and harder and harder until you reach that final level, and then you really got to put your, you really got to put your feet to the ground, buckle up, grit your teeth, and really put your all into it. That's what needs to happen right now. Tony Khan is in the final level of a video game. He's in the final boss level of a video game, and Triple H is the final boss. He has to go up and combat against. That's what he needs to do. Because everybody knows that once you play that hard level, that final boss level, so many times over and over, eventually you're going to win. Eventually you're going to topple that final boss. Tony Khan needs to buckle up, get his working glasses on, get his working boots on, get that controller in his hands, and really put his pedal to the metal, and try to topple, if not prove, or not get face to face with Triple H and say, hey, we are on the same level. We are equals. He needs to do that. Because if not, AEW ain't going to have a future. It's like Andrew Bandala said. It's like Andrew Bandala said in his collab on Tuesday Night Titans with JD. If WB gets rid of AEW and they favor WWE over them, if WBD gets rid of AEW and they favor WWE over them, they're done. They are done. And All In will be the grand finale. It'll be the final show. And I feel sorry for them if that happens. Tony Khan, he needs to get the right people in charge. He needs to get the right people running that place. And when he does, he just needs to step aside and let the magic happen. Because if not, this company is not going to make it 10 years. Heck, it'll make it 5 years, but that'll probably be about it if they don't get this shit together. Tony, it's time to grow up. It's time to stop being a fan. It's time to put emphasis on your product again. It's time to put emphasis on your women's division, your men's division, your tag division, your trios division. You need to start doing that. You need to create this story. You need to put emphasis on stories for each of your talents. The ones that you feel is going to draw people into your arenas. For your shows and your pay-per-views. And you need to do the same with Ring of Honor. You were so proud of buying Ring of Honor. Guess what? Show you're happy about it. Show that company means a lot to you. Put emphasis on the talent there and the championships there, and promote them just as hard as you should be doing for AEW. Because we shouldn't hear reports or read reports of 996 tickets sold under 1K. We shouldn't be hearing that. We should be hearing sellout for Final Battle. That's what we should be hearing. We should be hearing sellout at the Nassau Coliseum for World's End. That's what we should be hearing. We should be hearing about great stories being developed, on both ends. We shouldn't be hearing complaints of nothing happening. We shouldn't be hearing wrestlers, men and women, social media-wise, YouTube, Twitter X, Facebook, voicing their frustration. We shouldn't see two of your biggest ass kissers, and I say that with all due respect to both men, because they've contributed a lot to this business, but we shouldn't be seeing your two ass kissers and Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez, disagreeing and arguing with each other when they've at times been more supportive about AEW than anybody else. We shouldn't be seeing that. We shouldn't be seeing people like JustAlyx or JD or Solid Monster or Good Mic Work not give a damn about AEW programming. Even if they review it on a weekly basis, we shouldn't have to tune into YouTube, into the YouTube channels, that we subscribe to, and see them just be pissed off about what AEW is doing. I mean, even heel Jesse, who's an AEW fan and an Impact fan, he's getting sick and tired of it, and he's going to probably be wanting to watch Impact more so than AEW. The thing is, They need to get their act together. Tony Khan needs to get his act together. He needs to focus. Because if not, I don't see AEW future. It's pretty much almost one foot. It's basically one toe, right? Not a foot, but one toe in the grave right now. And that's not good. You have one toe in the grave. That's not good. That's not good. And Tony Khan needs to get his act together. He wants to stay on the WBD networks. Get your act together. That's what he needs to do. That's what he needs to do. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm not going to be surprised that if they don't get something renewed, or they don't find a television home with a possible streaming deal for them, next year. Don't be surprised if All In is, next year in London is the final show. Don't be surprised. But hopefully it's not. Because hopefully by then Tony will get his act together. Because, you know what? I can understand he's upset that he doesn't have Cody anymore. He doesn't have CM Punk anymore. I can understand that he's upset with not having Jade anymore, or Brian Pillman Jr. I can understand, he's not happy with those talents going to the competition. I can understand that. I can understand he didn't want to fire CM Punk, but he had to. His hand was basically forced, I would assume. Because I could tell you, watching that promo and everything he did, where he fired Punk, you could tell he didn't want to do it, but he had to. You can tell. You can tell he didn't like the fact that Cody Rhodes went back to WWE, and he's getting treated better than he was in AEW. You can tell that. You can tell that. You can tell he's not happy. It's almost like when CM Punk left. Well, it's not CM Punk, but when Cody left, that was like a domino effect. That was like the first domino that fell, and the effect kept, growing and growing and growing, with domino falling after with dominoes constantly falling over each other, time after time after time after time after time, until finally, when CM Punk got released or fired, that was the final domino that broke the camel's back, and he just hasn't cared since then. Well, you know what? It's like JustAlyx said. Build yourself a new CM Punk. Build yourself a new Cody Rhodes. Build yourself a new Brian Pillman Jr. Build yourself a new Jade Cargill with the talent you have. Because if you don't, you're going to get absorbed into WWE. You're going to have to put that company up for sale, your company up for sale, and it more than likely will get absorbed into WWE. And you're going to have a lot of talents that went to your company to get away from there, not being happy with the fact that they'll be back with them. Even if they know, hey, it might be the best thing for them. So Tony, and whoever else is part of your crew, it's time to, like I said earlier, it's time to go to work. It's time to go to war. It's time to put your big boy pants on, grow a set, and look Triple H in the eye and say, "You want a war? You got it." To quote the late great Scott Hall. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on what's going on with AEW? Let me know down below in the comments, as well as in the live chat during premiere. I recommend checking out JustAlyx's video on this. He goes more in depth than I do, and he brings up some great justifiable points. But guys, give me your thoughts. Love to hear from each and every one of you. What do you think is going to happen with AEW? In the near future. Do you think All In, if they don't get their act together next year, could be it? What are your thoughts? Let me know down below in the comments, as well as in the live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Again, check out JustAlyx's video on it. It's really good. He did a great job on it. And until then, guys, I will talk to you later.